The day when our Abba Yahuah, through the one that we know as Yahusha, shall crack the sky. And he shall come and get us from the four corners of this Aratz. There is none like him. I don't know about you, but I do believe that you all love him as much as I do. Because if it wasn't for him, I would probably either be locked up or dead. And that's serious. But because of his Ruach, his love for us, he's allowed us to see his truth. In this special momentous occasion, in this time of human history, he has brought his truth to his people. And he's going to continue to open up the eyes of those who don't even know that they have been called by his name, that don't even know that he even exists as Yahuah, that believe he is some pagan title, that believe he is some Greco-Roman Messiah. But he is opening up the eyes of his children. He is opening up the eyes of all his children. No matter where you live, no matter what your background, no matter what your skin color, he is calling his people, the remnant, from all over this world. Mishpachah, it is high time. It is time for us to make sure that we do not walk in the ways of lawlessness, that we do not walk in the ways of the Gentiles, that we do not do the things of the heathens, that we do not practice the way of the pagans. If you are an able-bodied person and you're able to stand, let us stand up facing towards Yahushalom, the city of the eternal King, the great King, Yahusha, as we blow the shofar and bring this study before Abba Yahuah. Heavenly Abba Yahuah, we come before you on this Yaum, on this Shabbat, to the Atah Abba Yahuah, for allowing us to congregate together on this platform, on this Yaum. Abba, we come to you to give you praise, honor, and esteem, to reflect on what you have done in the past, O Abba, creating the Shamaim and the Arats, and all that is within them. Abba, how you have given us all life, that we may be able to share in your greatness, in your pleasantness, and all that you have for us, O Abba Yahuah. And all that you ask of us is obedience, to obey your instructions, your commands, and your statutes, O Abba. We ask that you would still our hearts and our minds, so that we may hear your word, that we may hear from your Ruach, that you would touch us, move in our lives, O Abba. Abba, we know that we are living some tumultuous times right now. And Abba, we ask that if there be any fear in any of us, O Yah, that you would remove it. We ask that you would help us to have that sound mind, O Abba, that love that you have given us, that we are to love one another as you have loved us, O Abba, that we are to even love those who are not according to what we believe, those who are our enemies, O Yah, those who don't like us, O Abba, even if it be friend, foe, or even family, O Abba. We ask that you would create in us a new heart, a clean heart, a heart of flesh that seeks after you and your TORAH. Abba, we can't wait to see your face, O Yah. We can't wait to be there before you and seeing your beautiful face, O Abba, the one who has created all things, that it is you, O Yah, that we are standing before, the one who has given us life, the one who has called us from our mother's womb, the one who is going to give us a new name, O Abba Yahuah. Oh, we can't wait for that day. Abba, we ask that you would come quickly, that you would come speedily for your people. Help us to be cleansed by the blood. Help us to be cleansed by your word. Help us to be cleansed by your Ruach that dwells in us, O Abba, and even the things that we go through in our life, O Yah. Help us not to falter. Help us not to give up. Help us to endure, O Abba, by your Ruach. Help us to persevere, O Abba, by your Ruach. Help us to continue, O Abba, to go into that straight and narrow gate, O Yah, that you have called us to be a part of. We look forward to that Yaum. We look forward to the Yaum, O Abba, when all of us who are congregating together right now, and those that we don't know that are far off, O Yah, that we will all come together to you before your feet. All of those who are called by your name. We can only imagine that, Yaum. We can only imagine what we see and all those things that we have been told throughout the scriptures, O Abba, and in the writings, O Yah, of what you are going to do for us. And so, Abba, I ask that any of us who feel weak, any of us who may be ill, any of us who may have any mental problems or challenges, O Abba, any of us who are dealing with anything with our family and our friends, or any of us who are dealing with this pagan time of this season, O Yah, we ask that you would help us. Help us, O Abba. This is our prayer, our palah on this Yaum. We ask that you are in our midst. We ask that you would share with us, O Abba, your greatness and your pleasantness and your kindness, O Yah. Do not deal with us, your children, in our ways, not according to our transgressions, but because of your name's sake, O Abba. To the Atah, Abba Yahuah. All these things we ask in the mighty name of your Bane, Yahusha, HaMashiach. Hallelujah, Yahuah. Hallelujah, Yahuah. And hallelujah, Yahuah. Amat. Rumamu Yahuah. Oh, hallelujah, Yahuah. Hallelujah, Yahuah. Okay, Mishpachah. So we have come together on this Yom, the first Shabbat of the 10th month. For those of you who have calendar beads, let me show you how it should look on this Yom. I have not updated mine yet, so we're going to do this together. It should be oriented in this fashion. And we are on the 10th month. This is yesterday's date. I am going to go one up to the gold bead for Shabbat. And there it is. It is now updated. All right. Okay. So Mishpachah, I don't know if you saw the title, but today we're going to be talking about, is circumcision necessary? Is circumcision necessary? This has been a contention amongst believers for many, many centuries. Not just today in this modern time of those of us who are getting our eyes open. But it has been this for literally centuries. And we're going to go through the scriptures. We're not going to go to each one of them, but we're going to go through a lot today. If you guys heard my stomach just grumble then, it's because it is grumbling for a reason. But it's so beautiful to see all of you. I want to thank all my moderators. Aki, Emmanuel, great to see you here, Ak. We missed you. Great to see you on the Shabbat. All right, so I'm going to play one song. This is going to be a song of worship. A worship to our Abba Yahuah. It's a remake of an old classic. Some of you know. I remade it. May you be in a place where you're able to spend this quiet time to hear this song. May you meditate on the song. May you envision Abba Yahuah before you. And may he reveal himself and manifest himself to you. Hallelujah, Yahuah.
Take me to your most high temple. Take me to your most high place. Past your brazen altar, yeah, I wanna see your face. Take me by the crowds of people and the priests who sing you praise. I hunger and thirst for your righteousness, but it's only found in one place. Take me into your most high place. Take me in by the blood of the Lamb. Take me into your most high place. Take the coal and cleanse my lips. Here I am. Take me to your most high temple. Take me to your most high place. Past your brazen altar, yeah, I wanna see your face. Take me by the crowds of people and the priests who sing you praise. I hunger and thirst for your righteousness, but it's only found in one place. Take me into your most high place. Take me in by the blood of the Lamb. Take me into your most high place. Take the coal and cleanse my lips. Here I am.
Hallelujah, Yahuah. You and you alone deserve all the praise, honor, and esteem, O Abba. You are the Aleph and the Tav, the Almighty Al Shaddai. We love you, O Abba, because you first loved us. Hallelujah, Yahuah.
Barak Yahuah. Barak Yahuah. Barak Yahuah. Take the coal and cleanse my lips.
Yes, hallelujah, Yahuah.
Barak Yahuah. Barak Yahuah. Barak Yahuah.
Take the coal and cleanse our lips, O Abba. Yes, yes, yes. Hallelujah, Yahuah. Okay, Mishpachah. So before we get started with our readings from the TORAH and from the Nabaim and from the Ketubim, that is the law, the prophets, and the writings, I wanted to share with you an update that for those of you who have contributed to the funds that we sent to Jamaica for the relief of what happened to them in the hurricane that just happened recently, wanted to let you know that we sent another $750, all praises to Abba Yahuah, to our Cody Kimona to distribute it to those who are in need there on the island of Jamaica. I ask that you would continue to palaw that that money be used in a wise way for those who receive it, and that they are touched by Abba Yahuah, and that they come to know his wonderful name. Hallelujah. Yahuah. Okay, so let us go ahead and read out of Genesis, Barashit, the very first book of the TORAH, chapter 28. And again, I will be reading out of the scriptures, TS 2009. Let me prop this side up here. And I just want to say, last night was so beautiful to hear all of you with your testimonies, your comments, your kind words, even to myself, and to what Abba Yahuah has done with this community, with this mishpachah, this group of believers. I am so happy to be a part and proud to be a part of such a group of people like yourselves from all over this Aratz, all over this world. And so on this Shabbat, let us commemorate what Yahuah has done for us by creating this ecosystem so that we can breathe, live, eat, drink, and praise his name most of all. Hallelujah, Yahuah. And so let me blow this up so we can all read this together. Let me situate my cradle just right here. Give me a second. All right. Again, Barashit, also known as Genesis, chapter 28, starting at verse 1. And Yitzhak, or Isaac, called Jacob, Jacob, and Baruch him, and commanded him, and said to him, do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan, or that is from the land of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take a wife for yourself from there, from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And Al Shaddai, that is the Almighty, barak you, and make you fruitful, and increase you, and you shall become an assembly of peoples, and give you the barakah of Abraham to you, and your seed with you, so that you inherit the land of your sojournings, which Yahuah Elohim, the mighty of mighty ones, gave to Abraham. So Yitzhak sent Yaakov away, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Ribkah. You may know her as Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And Esau saw that Yitzhak had Baruch Jacob, and sent him away to Padan Aram to take himself a wife from there, and that as he Baruch him, he gave him a command, saying, do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob had obeyed his Abba and his mother, and had gone to Padan Aram. So Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please his father Yitzhak, and Esau went to Yashmaal, that is Ishmael, and took Malalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nabayot, to be his wife, beside the wives he had. We see here that Esau did not obey his father. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran, and he came upon a place, stopped over for the night, for the sun had set. And he took one of the stones that from that place, and he put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the Aratz, and its top reached to the Shamaim. And he saw Malachim, or messengers, the angels of Yahuah Elohim, going up and coming down on it. And see, Yahuah stood above it, and said, I am Yahuah, Yahuah Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Yahuah Elohim of Yitzhak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the Aratz, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And all the clans of the Aratz shall be Baruch in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land, for I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. And Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Truly, Yahuah is in this place, and I did not know it." And he was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of Yahuah Elohim, and this is the gate of the Shamaim." And Yaqub rose early in the Bakor in the morning, and took the stone that he had put at his head, and set it up as a standing column, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Ba'ath Al, meaning the house of the mighty. However, the name of that city had been Luz previously. And Yaqub made a vow, saying, "Seeing Yahuah Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in Shalom, and Yahuah has been my Yahuah Elohim, then this stone which I have set as a standing column shall be Yahuah Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give you a tenth to you." Hallelujah. And now let's go to Yashayahu, Isaiah chapter 2. Yashayahu chapter 2. And it reads, "The word that Yashayahu, the son of Amos, saw concerning Yahudah and Yahushalom. And it shall be in the latter days that the mountain of the house of Yahuah is established on top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow to it. And many peoples shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahuah, to the house of Yahuah Elohim of Yaqub, and let him teach us his ways, and let us walk in his paths. For out of Zion comes forth the TORAH, and the word of Yahuah from Yahushalom. And he shall judge between the nations, and shall reprove many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither teach battle any more. O house of Yaqub, come, let us walk in the light of Yahuah. For you have forsaken your people, the house of Yaqub, because they have been filled from the east, and practice magic like the Philistines, and they are pleased with the children of the foreigners. And their land is filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures, and their land is filled with horses, and there is no end to their chariots, and their land is filled with idols. They bow themselves to the work of their own hands, to what their own fingers have made. And the lowly bows down, and the high is humbled. Therefore you do not forgive them. Enter into the rock, hide in the dust because of the fear of Yahuah and the splendor of his excellency. The lofty looks of man shall be humbled. The pride of men shall be bowed down, and Yahuah alone shall be exalted in that day. That is the day of Yahuah. For Yahuah of hosts has a day against all that is proud and lofty, against all that is lifted up, so that it is brought low, and against all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and against all the oaks of Bashan, and against all the high mountains, and against all the hills that are lifted up, and against every lofty tower, and against every strong wall, and against all the ships of Tarshish, and against all the desirable craft. And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the pride men shall be brought low, and Yahuah alone shall be exalted in that day, and the idols completely pass away. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks, and into the caves of the Arats, from the dread of Yahuah and the splendor of his excellency, when he rises to shake the Arats mightily. In that day man shall throw away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made, each for himself to worship, into the moles and bats, to go into the clefts of the rocks, and into the crags of the rugged rocks, because of the fear of Yahuah and the splendor of his excellency, when he arises to shake the Arats mightily. Cease from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. For in what is he to be reckoned upon? Hallelujah. And now we're going to go to Yohanan, that is to the Brit HaKadash. Chapter 7. This is in the book of John. Chapter 7, verse 1. And it reads, And after this, Yahushua was walking in Galilee, for he did not wish to walk in Yehudah, because the Yahudim were seeking to unalive him. And the festival of the Yahudim was near, the festival of Sukkot, also known as Tabernacles. So his brothers said to him, Get away from here and go into Yehudah, so that your taught ones also see the works that you are doing. For no one acts in secret while he himself seeks to be known openly. If you do these works, show yourself to the world. For even his brothers did not believe in him. And Yahushua therefore said to them, My time has not yet come, but your time is always ready. It is impossible for the world to hate you, but it hates me because I bear witness of it, that its works are wicked. You go up to this festival. I am not yet going up to this festival, for my time has not yet been filled or fulfilled. And having said this to them, he stayed in Galilee. But when his brothers had gone up to the festival, then he also went up, not openly, but as it were in secret. The Yahudim, therefore, were seeking him at the festival and said, Where is he? And there was much grumbling about him among the crowd. Some were saying, He is right or righteous, but others saying, No, but he is leading the crowd astray. However, no one spoke openly of him for fear of the Yahudim. And about the middle of the festival, Yahushua went up into the set-apart place, and he was teaching. So when it says here, and about the middle of the festival, you remember the festival of Sukkot is 8 days long. So he didn't show up on the first day. He probably didn't show up on the second or the third day, somewhere around the fourth, fifth, maybe the sixth day. Verse 15, and the Yahudim were marveling, saying, How does this man know letters? Or how does he know the scriptures, not having learned? Yahushua answered them and said, My teaching is not mine, but his who sent me. If anyone desires to do his desire or his will, he shall know concerning the teaching, whether it is from Yahuah Elohim or whether I'm speaking from myself. He who speaks from himself is seeking his own esteem, but he who seeks the esteem of the one who sent him is true, and no unrighteousness is in him. Did not Moshe give you the Torah, the law? Yet not one of you does the Torah. Why do you seek to unalive me? The crowd answered and said, You have a demon. Who seeks to unalive you? Yahushua answered and said to them, I did one work, and you all marvel. Because of this, Moshe has given you the circumcision, though it is not from Moshe, but from the fathers. And you circumcise a man on the Shabbat. If a man receives circumcision on the Shabbat, so that the Torah of Moshe should not be broken, are you angry with me because I made a man entirely well on the Shabbat? Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. Therefore some of them from Yahushalom said, Is this not he whom they are seeking to unalive? And see, he speaks boldly, and they say none at all to him. Could it be that the rulers truly know that this is truly the Mashiach? But we know where this one is from. And when the Mashiach comes, no one knows where he is from. Yahushua therefore cried out in the set-apart place, teaching and saying, You both know me. You know where I am from. And I have not come of myself, but he who sent me is true, whom you do not know. But I know him because I am from him, and he sent me. So they were seeking to seize him, but no one laid a hand on him because his hour had not yet come. And many of the crowd believed in him and said, When the Mashiach comes, shall he do more signs than these which this one did? The Pharisees heard the crowd muttering these matters concerning him. And the Pharisees and the chief priests sent officers to seize him. Therefore Yahushua said to them, Yet a little while I am with you, then I go to him who sent me. You shall seek me, and you shall not find me, and where I am you are unable to come. The Yahudim therefore said to themselves, Where is he about to go that we shall not find him? Is he about to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and to teach the Greeks? What is this word which he said, you shall seek me and you shall not find me, or where I am you are unable to come? And on that last day, the great day of the festival, that is the last day of the feast of Sukkot, the 8th day of the celebration, Yahushua stood and cried out, saying, If anyone thirsts, let him come to me, and let him who believes in me drink. As the scripture said, speaking of the Old Testament, out of his innermost shall flow rivers of living water. And this he said concerning the Ruach, which those believing in him were about to receive. For the Ruach HaKadosh was not yet given, because Yahushua was not yet esteemed. Many from the crowd, when they heard the word, then said, Truly, this truly is the prophet. Others said, This is the Mashiach. But others said, Does the Mashiach then come out of Galilee or Galil? Did not the scripture say that the Mashiach comes from the seed of Dawood and from the village of Bethlehem, where Dawood was from? So a division came about among the people because of him. And some of them wished to take him, but no one laid hands on him. The officers therefore came to the chief priests and Pharisees, and they said to them, Why did you not bring him? The officers answered, Never has any man spoke like this man. And the Pharisees and therefore answered them, Have you also been led astray? Pretty much saying, are you under a spell? Has any one of the rulers or of the Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd that does not know the TORAH is accursed. Nicodemus, you may know him as Nicodemus, he who came to Yahushua by night, being one of them, said to them, Does our TORAH judge the man unless it hears first from him and knows what he is doing? They answered and said to him, Are you also from Galil? Search and see that no prophet has arisen out of Galilee or Galil. And each one went to his own house. All right. So that is the reading of the TORAH, of the Nabaim, and the Katubim. And so now we are going to get into our subject matter for today. Is circumcision necessary? This was a question that was asked at the council in Yahushalom. We can read about it in the book of Acts, chapter 15. But before we do, let's set up a little foundation about what we call circumcision. Let's go to Bereshit. Let's go to Genesis. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because many of you, as you are going to be sharing this truth, there are going to be some who are going to ask you, so am I supposed to get circumcised? Well, now you'll have a question, or you have an answer for their question. So let's go to Bereshit, chapter 17. I have some notes before me today because we're going through a lot. And we're going to read here, starting at verse 10. Well, let's back up. Verse 9. This is again Genesis chapter 17, verse 9. And Yahuwah Elohim said to Abraham, As for you, guard my agreement, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my agreement which you guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the agreement between me and you. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed, he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your silver has to be circumcised. So this is talking about even the foreigners that will become servants. So shall my agreement be in your flesh for an everlasting agreement. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my agreement. And Yahuah Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And so it goes on and it talks about who Sarah is and how they were about to have a child. Okay, so let's go to another one. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the Barim, chapter 10. The Barim, chapter 10. And we are going to start verse 14. Deuteronomy 10, verse 14. See, the Shamaim and the Shama of Shamaim belong to Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, your mighty of mighty ones. Also, the Arats, with all that is in it. Yahuah delighted only in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, you above all peoples, as it is today. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and harden your neck no more. For Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, is Yahuah Elohim of mighty ones, and master of masters, the great Al, almighty and awesome, who shows no partiality nor takes a bribe. He executes right ruling for the fatherless and the widow, and loves the stranger, giving him food and a garment. And the last verse we're going to read here, and you shall love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt, or Mitzrayim. All right, let's continue. We're going to be in this same book. We're going to go now to Deuteronomy chapter 30. Deuteronomy chapter 30. And we are going to start at verse 5. Deuteronomy 30, verse 5. And Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, shall bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it, and he shall do pleasant to you, or give you pleasant things to you, and increase you more than your fathers. Verse 6. And Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, shall circumcise your heart, and the heart of your seed, to love Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, with all your heart, and with all your being, so that you might live. And Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, shall put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecuted you. And you shall turn back and obey the voice of Yahuah, and to do all his commands, which I command you today. And let's go on now to Joshua chapter 5, laying down the foundation here. Joshua chapter 5, we're going to start at the very first verse. And it came to be, when all the sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, that is the Jordan, westward, and all the sovereigns of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that Yahuah had dried up the waters of the Jordan, from before the children of Yasharal, until we had passed over, that their heart melted. And there was no ruach in them any longer, because of the children of Yasharal. At that time, Yahuah said to Yahusha, make knives of flint for yourself, and circumcise the sons of Yasharal again the second time. The second time? What do you think he means by the second time? So Yahusha made knives of flint for himself and circumcised the sons of Yasharal at the hill of foreskins. And this is why Yahusha circumcised them, all the people who came out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, who were males, all the men of battle who had been unalived in the wilderness on the way, after they came out of Mitzrayim. For all the people who came out had been circumcised. But all the people who were born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Mitzrayim had not been circumcised. For the children of Yasharal walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the nation, the men of battle who came out of Mitzrayim, were consumed because they did not obey the voice of Yahuah, to whom Yahuah swore not to show them the land which Yahuah sworn to their fathers that he would give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. And Yahusha circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not been circumcised on the way. And it came to be, when they had completed circumcising all the nation, or all the people, that they stayed in their place in the camp till they were healed. All right. So now we are going to go to Jeremiah, chapter 4. Jeremiah chapter 4, starting at verse 1. If you do return, O Yasharal, declares Yahuah, return to me. If you remove your abominations from my presence and cease straying, and shall swear, as Yahuah lives, in truth, in right ruling, and in righteousness, then the nations shall barak themselves in him, and they shall boast in him, that is Yahuah. For this is what Yahuah said to the men of Yehuda and Yahushalom. Break up your tillable ground, and do not sow among thorns. Circumcise yourselves unto Yahuah, and take away the foreskins of your hearts, you men of Yehuda and inhabitants of Yahushalom, lest my wrath come forth like fire and burn, with none to quench it, because of the evil of your deeds. Okay, so here we see that there's two types of circumcision. There is one that is physical, and there's one that is symbolic. One is of the flesh, and the other one is of the heart. One has to do with an agreement between Abraham and Yahuah, and that was to be followed down through the generations physically. And another one is to be done to those who believe in him and obey him spiritually. So now we're going to go into the Brit HaKadash, also known as the New Testament, and we're going to read about some of this. Now, we just read earlier in John, I believe it was John chapter 7, where Yahusha himself said, and we're going to read it again just to refresh our memory, what he says about circumcision and how a man would keep it to fulfill the law. John chapter 7, starting at verse 22. Because of this, Masha has given you the circumcision, though it is not from Masha exactly. Masha didn't give this command, but from the fathers. Who's the fathers? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And you circumcise a man on the Shabbat. If a man receives circumcision on the Shabbat, so that the TORAH of Masha should not be broken, are you angry with me because I made a man entirely well on the Shabbat? So here we start to see the questioning of how you are to keep the Shabbat. There are those of the Pharisees and Sadducees who believe that you are not to circumcise a male child if it happens to fall on a Shabbat and it happens to be the 8th day from his birth. And so here it is, Yahusha is correcting it and saying, wouldn't you not, to make sure that you are fulfilling the law, make sure that your sons are being circumcised on that day so that the law of Masha may be fulfilled, so you don't break the law? This is why Yahusha is bringing this up. So now as we go to after our Messiah was unalived, buried, and resurrected, and ascended up into the Shamayim, we start to see this shift in the understanding of what it means to be circumcised. We saw it already as we were reading about it, even in the Tanakh in the Old Testament, that it's more than just the flesh. It has to do with the heart. And so here we see in the book of Acts where this became a contentious debate amongst those of the believers. Let's go to Acts chapter 15. And what we're getting ready to read has more to do than it is for us to say we are now walking in the truth. This is where we start to see the splintering of those who are following the way and of those once Christianity came into play, those who started becoming Christians. So let's talk about this. Let's read this. Let's get a little backstory. So we need to read a little bit. And so we're going to start at the very first verse of chapter 15. And we're going to pull out some words here so that you can see for yourself what is being told and understood by this council. This is literally the first council. You know, people talk about the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Laodicea and the Council of Trent and Clement and all these other things. No, we're talking about this is the true council, the first council. And it's probably the last council because I can't think of another one that actually happened. But this council here is with the first apostles, the first disciples. So they're about to lay it down. They're about to lay the law down. So let's go ahead and read this. Acts chapter 15, verse 1. And certain men came down from Yahudah and were teaching the brothers, quote, unless you are circumcised according to the practice of Moshe, you are unable to be saved. Now, I'm sure some of you probably heard this, especially with those who are of the IUIC camps and those who truly like to believe that you can only follow the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament, Torah observant, and throw away the New Testament because that is heresy according to them. They're the ones who bring up a lot of this stuff here. Okay, this is the same mindset that we're talking about. The same ones like these brothers and sisters who believe that you have to keep the letter of the law as it is without looking into it deeper, being on the surface dwellers, as I like to call it, not rightly dividing the word of truth. This is the mindset. These people that say that you cannot be saved unless you are circumcised physically. So when Shaul and Barnabas had no small dissension and dispute with them, they arranged for Shaul and Barnabas and certain others of them to go up to Yahushalom, to the emissaries, that is, to the apostles and elders about this question. Now we know who the apostles are, the 11 apostles without Yahudah the Iscariot, because remember, he unalived himself. Verse 3. So being set on their way by the assembly, they passed through Phoenicia and Shamaron, relating the conversation of the nations, that is, of the Gentiles, and they were causing great joy to all the brothers. And having arrived in Yahushalom, they were received by the assembly and the emissaries, the apostles and the elders, and they reported all that Yahuah Elohim had done with them. And some of the believers who belonged to the sect of the Pharisees rose up, saying, it is necessary to circumcise them and to command them to keep the TORAH of Moshe. And the emissaries, the apostles, and the elders came together to look into this matter. Here is the first council. And when there had been much dispute, Kappa, you may know him as Peter, which is a wrong name. His name is Kappa, rose up and said to them, men, brethren, you know that a great while ago, Yahuah Elohim chose among us that by my mouth the nations, the Gentiles, should hear the word of the great news and believe. Let's stop right there. When did this happen? If you go back just a few chapters later or before, you would read about this story about how Cornelius and his family became converts to the truth. They became followers of the way. Now, we're going to read into this later, but not at this moment. But you can find that story of what Kappa is talking about here in verse 7. That's what he's talking about, because it was he who went there to Cornelius's house, and he spoke to them about Yahusha, the Mashiach, and they were converted, and they were immersed in the name of Yahusha. Let's continue. Verse 8, and Yahuah Elohim, who knows the heart, bore witness to them, that is to them, those Gentiles that he's talking about. He's speaking about Cornelius's house, by giving them the Ruach HaKadosh as also to us, and made no distinction between us and them, meaning between those who are of the circumcision, that is the children of Yasharal, and them being Gentiles who are not of the bloodstock of Yasharal, not DNA Yasharal, cleansing their hearts by belief. You may know it as faith. We call it amunah in the Hebrew language. Now then, why do you try Yahuah Elohim by putting a yoke or a burden on the neck of the taught ones, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? Now, for those of you who are listening, who are Extians, you say, see, no one can keep the law. That's not what Kappa, aka Peter, is saying here. He's saying that no one is able to keep the law. That is clear. That is very clear. No one is justified by the law. This is what Kappa is talking about. But through favor of the Master Yahusha, yours would say grace, the Mashiach, we trusted to be saved in the same way as they. Okay, by belief, by amunah, by obedience. And all the crowd was silent and were listening to Barnabas and Shaul, declaring how many miracles and wonders Yahuah Elohim did among the nations, the Gentiles, through them. And after they were silent, Yaqub. Who's Yaqub? You may know him as James. This is the half-brother of our Messiah. His mother is Mary. Answering and said, men and brethren, listen to me. Shimon has declared how Yahuah Elohim first visited the Gentiles, the nations, to take out of them a people for his name. Okay? So for those of you who are hearing all these posts of people saying, oh, well, unless you are a Jew, a true Jew, of those that are of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's descent, you have no place in Yasharal. That is a lie. They're speaking against Yahusha. They're speaking against the great news. Verse 15. And the words of the prophets agree with this, as it has been written. Now here it is. Yaqub is getting ready to quote. And he says, after this I shall return and rebuild the booth of Daud, or David, which has fallen down, and I shall rebuild its ruins, and I shall set it up, so that the remnant of mankind, not Israel's kind, this is Adam's kind, shall seek Yahuah, even all the nations, all the other peoples, all the other ethnic groups, on whom my name has been called, says Yahuah, who is doing all this, who has made this known from of old. This is in the book of Amos, the prophet Amos. Therefore, I judge that we should not trouble those from among the Gentiles, among the nations, who are turning, who are coming to Yahuah Elohim. They're coming to the knowledge of the truth. And so it says here, but that we write to them to abstain from defilements of idols. That's one. And from whoring, that is, living promiscuously. That's two. And from what is strangled from blood, meaning that they are to follow the dietary laws. That's what it's talking about here. From what is strangled from blood. That's three. From ancient generations, Masha, that is Moses, has in every city, speaking of places of worship where people would congregate together, those proclaiming him, meaning Masha, proclaiming him how? The teachings, being read, which is the Torah, in the congregations when? Every Sabbath, not every first day of the week. So what are we reading here? It's not saying that the Gentiles are not supposed to follow the laws of Moses or what we know as the Torah. No, James is saying, look, they are coming in. They're just now finding out about Yahuah and who he is. They weren't raised in our customs. They weren't raised as Israelites. They don't know our ways. So let us not bombard them with all of our laws and telling them they have to be circumcised as we are. Let them just do these things, these simple things first. This is what he's saying. Let them abstain from defilements of idols. Don't bow down to no idols or images. This is what we know as the first and second commandments of the law. From whoring, okay? Some can even say that this also falls in line with the seventh commandment, do not commit adultery. And from what is strangled from blood. Again, taking us back to the dietary laws. But it even goes further. If you look into verse 21, notice what he is saying here. James is saying, look, they're going to go to these places. If they're truly wanting to walk in the ways of Yahuah, they're going to go to these synagogues, these congregations, these places where they're going to get to be able to hear the word of Yahuah, the Torah. Because you got to remember, back in those days, people did not have the scriptures. What do I mean by that? They didn't have these books like we have. You had to be a rich man, or you had to be one of the Pharisees. The Pharisees, who are part of the ones who are controlling the people, or the priesthood that would actually have a copy of the law. So these people, the Gentiles, who probably don't have the money to even purchase, let alone have somebody who is of Hebrew descent to even give them a copy, they would have to enter into a synagogue to hear the instructions, to hear the law for themselves. And when would they hear this? Every Sabbath. So what would happen to them? Just like what is happening to many of us. As you hear more and more of the teachings of Masha, which was given to him by Yahuah on the mountain, you start to line yourself up with what you're hearing that is being read. It's not telling the Gentiles that, look, all you have to do is stay away from idols, and all you have to do is make sure you're not fornicating and make sure you're not eating meat with blood in it. That's just the beginning of the walk. This is what James was really explaining to them, saying this is what we need to tell them, so we're not putting too much burden on them. Let them come to understand as the Ruach is going to lead them, is what he was pretty much saying between the lines. And so it goes on and says, then it seemed right to the emissaries, the apostles, and the elders, with all the assembly, to send chosen men from among them to Antioch with Shaul and Barnabas. So now they're getting ready to send a cohort of men with Shaul and Barnabas. Yahudah being called Barsaba or Barsaba, and Silas, leading men among the brethren, having written by their hand this, the emissaries and the elders and the brothers, to the brothers who are of the nations, who are of the Gentiles in Antioch, in Syria, in Cilicia, greetings, since we have heard that some who went out from us, that is of the circumcision, that is those who are Israelite DNA, have troubled you, Gentiles, who are not Israelites DNA, with words, unsettling your lives, to whom we gave no command. Notice this, we gave no command. There is structure, there is order, there's a chain of command. And Yaqub, James being the head. And then you had Peter and so on and so forth, Kappa. And so it goes on and says, it seemed right to us, having become of one mind, to send chosen men to you, to the Gentiles, with our beloved Barnabas and Shaul, men who have given up their lives for the name of our master Yahusha, the Mashiach. We have therefore sent Yahudah and Silas, who are also confirming this by word of mouth. So this is the reason why, Yahudah and Silas was sent. They were to confirm what also Barnabas and Shaul were going to say, so that they know that it's not just them who are saying this, but that this came straight from Jerusalem, from the council of the apostles, that this is a just word that you're hearing, you can believe on these words to understand that it is true. And so it says in verse 28, for it seemed right to the Ruach HaKodesh and to us. Notice that. For it seemed right to the Ruach HaKodesh. We know who the Ruach HaKodesh is. This is Abba. This is he, the one who created all things, through whom we know as the image, Yahusha. And it says, and to us, that is the apostles, to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessities. This is what's necessary, okay? That you abstain from what is offered to idols, and blood, and what is strangled, and whoring. If you keep yourselves from these, you shall do well. Be strong. Encouraging them. This council was encouraging these Gentiles who have just now come into this newness of the Amunah, of the faith, of the belief. They therefore, being sent off, went to Antioch, and having gathered the crowd together, they delivered the letter, and having read it, they rejoiced over its encouragement. And so it goes on a little bit more about all of this, of what had happened, and they were happy about these words. But now we're going to go in the same book called the book of Acts, which can also be called the book of works. You know, we think about the book of Acts and we don't connect it with works of the law. But that's what the book of Acts means. Like if you act something, that's a verb. You're acting, you're doing something. So it's also could be called the book of works. So let's continue. So chapter 21, not 22, 21. I misspoke. Let's see, where do we want to start here? You know what? Let's just go ahead and start from verse 1. That way we can all follow along. Okay. Let me turn off this heater. And so it says, and it came to be, Acts chapter 21, verse 1, when we had torn ourselves away from them and had set sail, we ran straight course and came to Kos, and the next day to Rhodes, and from there to Petra, or Patara. And having found a ship passing over to Phoenicia, we went aboard and set sail. And having sighted Cyprus and having passed it on the left, we sailed to Syria and landed on Sor, for the ship was to unload her cargo there. And having found taught ones, that is the Talmudim, we remained there 7 days. And they told Shaul through the Ruach not to go up to Yahushalom. And when it came to be that our days there were ended, we left and went on, all of them accompanying us, with wives and children, till we were out of the city. And kneeling down on the beach, we palalled. And having embraced one another, we boarded the ship, and they returned to their homes. And when we had completed our voyage from Zor, we came to Ptolemais. And having greeted the brethren, we stayed with them 1 day. And on the next day we left and came to Caesarea, and went into the house of Philip the evangelist, who was one of the 7. So these are the 7 that were handpicked by the apostles to take care of the orphans and the widows. Philip was one of them. And we stayed with him. Now this one had 4 maiden daughters, or 4 virgin daughters, who prophesied. And as we were staying many days, a certain prophet named Hagab came down from Yehuda, and having come to us, he took the girdle of Shaul, bound his own hands and feet, and said, quote, thus says the Ruach HaKodesh, thus shall the Yahudim at Yahushalom bind the man who owns this garment or this girdle, and deliver him into the hands of the nations. And when he heard this, both we and those from that place begged him not to go to Yahushalom. Now notice what it said in verse 11. It says that they are going to deliver him into the hands of the nations, that is the Gentiles, that is non-DNA Yasharal. Verse 13. And Shaul answered and said, what do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? For I am ready not only to be bound, but also to be unalived in Yahushua for the name of the Master, Yahusha. And as he could not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, Let the desire of the Master be done. And after those days, having made ready, we went up to Yahushua. And also some of the taught ones from Caesarea went with us, and brought with them one Mason of Cyprus, an early taught one, with whom we were to lodge. And when we had arrived in Yahushua, the brothers received us gladly. And on the following day, Shaul went with us to Yaqub, that is to James, and all the elders came. And having greeted them, he was relating one by one what Yahuah Elohim had done among the Gentiles, the nations, through his service. And when they heard it, they praised the Master. And they said to him, You see, brethren, how many thousands of Yahudim there are who have believed, and all are ardent for the Torah, for the law, but they have been informed about you, that is Shaul, that is Paul, that you teach all the Yahudim who are among the Gentiles, the nations, to forsake Masha, that is to forsake the law, saying not to circumcise the children, and to not walk according to the practices. What then is it? They shall certainly hear that you have come. So do this, what we say to you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow. Take them and be cleansed with them, and pay their expense so that they shave their heads. So they're taking the Nazirite vow. And all shall know that what they have been informed about you is not so, but that you yourself also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. Oh, they're not going to teach that in churches. Here it is that we're told by the elders, by the emissaries, the apostles, that Shaul was keeping the law. Right here. And all are ardent for the law, right? And it says here that he was keeping the law. But concerning the Gentiles who believe, we have written and decided that they should keep themselves from what is offered to idols and blood and what is strangled and whoring. You remember we just read this in Acts chapter 15. Then Shaul took the men on the next day, and having been cleansed with them, went into the set-apart place to announce the completion of the days of separation, until the offering should be presented for each one of them. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Yahudim from Asia, seeing him in the set-apart place, were stirring up all the crowd, and they laid hands on him, that is, on Shaul, crying out, Men of Yasharal, help! This is the man who is teaching all men everywhere against the people, that is, against the Yahudim, against the Yashraim, that is, the Israelites, and the Torah and the law. He's teaching against the law, they're saying, and this place, speaking of the Most High place, the temple. And besides, he also brought Greeks into the set-apart place and has profaned this set-apart place. Now, there are people who are out there teaching, oh, it's not talking about the actual Gentiles. No, this is talking about the 10 lost tribes of Israel that are scattered, that are dispersed amongst the heathens. No, that's not what this is talking about. And you guys all see this very clearly. It's talking about Gentiles, literally Gentiles, okay, Caucasians, because they had previously seen Trophimus, the Ephesian, and the Ephesians, those who live in Ephesus, they were also Caucasian, with him in the city, that is Yahushalom, whom they thought that Shaul had brought into the set-apart place. And the entire city was moved, and the people rushed together, seized Shaul, and dragged him out of the set-apart place, and immediately the doors were shut. And while they were seeking to unalive him, a report came to the commander of the company of soldiers that all Yahushalom was in confusion. At once he took soldiers and captains and ran down to them, and they, having seen the commander and the soldiers, stopped beating Shaul. So they was wearing this man out. They was beating up the apostle Shaul. Then the commander came near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains. and was asking who he was and what he had done. And in the crowd, some were shouting this and others shouting that. And not being able to ascertain the truth because of the uproar, he commanded him, that is Shaul, to be taken into the barracks. And when Shaul had came to the stairs, he had to be carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the crowd. For a large number of the people followed after, crying out, "Away with him!" And as Shaul was about to be led into the barracks, he said to the commander, quote, "Am I allowed to say somewhat to you?" And he said, "Do you know Greek?" Let's stop this for a second. This commander looked at Shaul and says to him, "Do you know Greek?" Why would he say that? Well, let's read the next verse. "Are you not a Mitzrayim?" Meaning, are you not an Egyptian who some time ago stirred up a revolt and led 4,000 assassins out into the wilderness? So what are we to take of this? This commander, who is Roman and Italian, he looks at the color or the skin complexion of Shaul and assumes that he is an Egyptian. Why? Because Egyptians who are from the bloodline of Ham, we know that they are melanated. So it shocked the commander to hear this melanated man speak a Caucasian language called Greek. And so he says to him, "Are you Greek?" Because he thought he was an Egyptian. And so it goes on and says this. But Shaul replied, "I am a Yahudi from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen, no mean city, and I beg you, allow me to speak to the people." And having given him permission, Shaul, standing on the stairs, motioned with his hand to the people. And when there was a great silence, he spoke in the Abrit or Hebrew language. Before we read what he says, how many of you have heard from pastors, preachers, theologians, evangelists, Jonathan Cahn, John Hagee, and all these other people that our Messiah and those that were living in his time when he was here, that they spoke Aramaic? How many of you heard this? How many of you have heard this? Give me a yes or give me a one. Yep. But here it is, clear as day, that Shaul, who was living at the times of the apostles, because we just read about it, he's speaking to his people. He says, "Can I speak to the people?" Who is the people? The same people who got him up, who was beating him down. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, they was putting some work on him. They spoke Hebrew. So he turns around and he's speaking Hebrew to them. So here it goes. "Men, brethren, and fathers, hear my defense before you now." And when they heard that he spoke to them in the Abrit language, in the Hebrew language, they kept greater silence. And he said, "I am indeed a Yahudi, having been born in Tarsus of Cilicia, yeah, I think I said that right, but brought up in this city," talking about Jerusalem, "at the feet of Gamaliel, having been instructed according to the exactness of the TORAH of our fathers, being ardent, being jealous for Yahuah Elohim, as you all are today, who persecuted this way," that is us, those of us who understand this truth. He was persecuting the way, "to their unaliving, binding and delivering up into the prisons both men and women, as also the high priest bears me witness, and all the eldership, from whom I also received letters to the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring in chains even those who were there to Yahushua to be punished. And it came to be, as I was journeying and coming there near to Damascus about noon, suddenly a great light shined upon me, or around me, out of the Shama. And I fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying to me, 'Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me?'" Now, if you read this in another passage here in the book of Acts, when he had his conversion, I think it's in chapter 9, if I'm correct. I can't quite remember. It says that Yahusha spoke to him in the Hebrew language, "Shaul, Shaul." Okay. So let's continue. And I answered, who are you, master? And it says, and he said to me, Yahusha said to me, I am Yahusha of Nazareth, whom you persecute. And those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear his voice speaking to me. And I said, what shall I do, master? And the master said to me, rise up and go into Damascus, and there you shall be told all that you have been appointed to do. And as I could not see because of the esteem of that light, being led by the hand of those who are with me, I came into Damascus, and a certain Hananiah, a dedicated man according to the law. Notice this. He was a dedicated man according to the law, being well spoken by all Yahudim dwelling there, came to me and stood by and said to me, Brother Shaul, look up. And at that same hour I looked up at him, and he said, the Yahuah Elohim of our fathers has appointed you to know his desire and to see the righteous one, and to hear the voice of him from his mouth, because you shall be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard. And now, why do you delay? Rise up, be immersed, be baptized, as some of you know this word, and wash away your sins, calling on the name of Yahuah. And it came to be, when I returned to Yahushalom, that is Jerusalem, and while I was praying in the set-apart place, I came to be in a trance, and I saw him. Here it is, Shaul says that he sees the Messiah, saying to him, hurry and get out of Yahushalom speedily, because they shall not accept your witness concerning me. And I said, Master, they know that in every congregation I was imprisoning and beating those who believe in you or on you. And when the blood of your witness, Stephanos, talking about Stephen, the martyr, was shed, I also was standing by giving my approval or consent to his unaliving and keeping the garments of those who were killing or unaliving him. And he said to me, go, because I shall send you far from here to the nations, that is, to the Gentiles. So right here, the Apostle Shaul says that he got his marching orders from the Mashiach, that he was to go to the Gentiles, not to the dispersed ones of Israel, but to the nations. Sheba, hush. And they, verse 22, were listening to him until this word. And then they lifted up their voice, saying, away with such a one from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. Why did they cut him off? Because he was talking about how he was sent to the nations. Just like a lot of the Israelites today are so jealous and so angry and have this bitterness in their heart for people who are outside of their skin color. This we're seeing, we're witnessing even this right now. It's still happening. Soon as he says that he's going to preach the great news to those who are not of the Israelites, they shut him off. We don't need to hear no more of this. Away with him. Away with him. So now it goes on and says this. Away with him. Away with such a one from the earth or the Arats, for it is not fitting that he should live. And as they were shouting and tearing the garments and throwing dust into the air, the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks and said to him, or said that he should be examined by flogging in order to find out why they were shouting so against him. And it says, and as they were stretching him out with straps, Shaul said to the captain who was standing by, is it permitted for you to whip a man who is a Roman and uncondemned? And when the captain heard, he went and reported to the commander, saying, watch what you are about to do, for this man is a Roman. And having come, the commander said to him, say to me, are you a Roman? And he said, yes. And the commander answered, with a large sum I obtained this citizenship. And Shaul says, but I was even born so. So this man, the commander, he had to purchase to become a Roman citizen. Whereas Shaul was born into Roman citizenship, just like many of us who are born into the citizenship of whatever country that we are in, because we have rights. And so did Shaul. Shaul had rights as a Roman citizen, even though he is a Yahudi. Just like many of us, we might be behind enemy lines here in the United States of America as a U.S. citizen, but we are not of this country in that sense. We belong to our Abba Yahuah. Our citizenship belongs to him in the Shamaim. Give me a second. Let me drink to moisten my throat here as I'm reading. Now, all of this was brought up because I wanted to show you the heart condition of the people. How when you talk about things like the law, and in this perspective, we're talking about circumcision, there is people who are on two sides of the line on this matter. Some say you have to be circumcised. Even to this day, you have to physically be circumcised as men. And then there's those of us who believe that the circumcision is truly of the heart. Now, we're going to skip into the book called Romans, and we're going to read about this same situation again. Here, Shaul, the same apostle who we just read about in the book of Acts, starting in chapter 2, verse 17, it says this: "See, you are called a Yahudi, and rest on the law, and make your boast in Yahuah Elohim, and know the desire of Yahuah Elohim, and approve what is superior, being instructed out of the law, and are trusting that you yourself are a guide to the blind, a light to those who are in darkness, and an instructor of foolish ones, a teacher of babes, having a form of knowledge and of the truth in the law. You then, who teach another, do you not teach yourself? You who proclaim that a man should not steal, do you steal? You who say do not commit adultery, do you commit adultery?" These are the commandments that he's reciting. "You who abominate idols, do you rob temples? You who make your boast in the law, through the transgression of the law, do you disrespect Yahuah Elohim? For the name of Yahuah Elohim is blasphemed among the nations, amongst the heathens, the Gentiles, because of you." Let me stop there for a second. Is this not true? Is this not what we have done? Many of us, because of what we have learned, this is what happened. This is how we got the name JESUS on our lips. This is how we got the titles GOD and LORD, because of our ancestors who walked away from the law, who walked away from the teachings, because they too were doing the same things that they were teaching against. They were actually doing it and accepting it. So here we go with the ineffable name doctrine, where they don't want to say the name and all they say is Hashem and Adonai and nonsense like this. Verse 25, "For circumcision indeed profits if you practice the Torah." Notice, if you practice the Torah. "But if you are a transgressor of the law, your circumcision has become uncircumcision." What is he saying here? That you're not supposed to get circumcised? No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that you who are circumcised, when you break the law, your circumcision is counted as uncircumcision. It means nothing. He's pretty much, what's the word I'm looking for? Disarming. That's what I was trying to think of. He is pretty much disarming the Pharisees and Sadducees, those who think this way, that you must be circumcised in the flesh. And so he goes on and says this: "So if an uncircumcised one, meaning a Gentile, watches over or does the righteousness of the law," notice that he's not saying that he's not doing the law, this Gentile. No, the Gentile is doing the law. He's fulfilling the law. "Shall not his uncircumcision be counted or reckoned as circumcision?" Come on now. Is it? Does a man have to physically be uncircumcised? This is what Shaul is saying, because he is now understanding the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. The letter of the law was the tutor for us. The spirit of the law is showing us how we are to examine ourselves, how we are to walk in the law. Two different things. Two different things. Verse 27. "And the uncircumcision by nature, meaning the Gentiles, who perfects the law, shall judge you, notwithstanding letter, and circumcision are a transgressor of the law." So then he gives an understanding, which is where we start to understand what it means to be a true Yahudim. For he is not a Yahudi who is so outwardly, neither is circumcision that which is outwardly in the flesh. But a Yahudi is he or she who is so inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the Ruach. Not literally saying that you have to do this physically anymore, whose praise is not from men, but from Yahuah Elohim. Exactly, because your heart condition was changed. Yahuwah took out that stony heart and gave you a heart of flesh. It wasn't done by the hands of man. It was done by the Ruach. Now, before we read anything else, we're going to go back to the book of Acts, and we're going to read about this conversion that happened. I want to show you something. Let's go to the book of Acts chapter 10. When Cornelius and his house had become a Yahudim, they became believers. Now, we're not going to read the whole story, but we're going to start here after Kappa, who people call Peter, after Kappa had his trance vision on top of the rooftop, where this sheet came down 3 times, and Yahuwah told him to rise and eat, to unalive it and eat. And you all know the story where Kappa says, I have not ever allowed anything common come into my lips. Not even I don't even know. That's not part of my diet. It's pretty much what he's saying. I don't eat that stuff. And this happened 3 times. And then Yahuwah said to him, you don't call what is common what I have made. You don't call it unclean. And so we're going to pick it up from verse 17. Verse 16. And while this took place 3 times, and the vessel was taken back to the Shama, and while Kappa was doubting within himself about what the vision might mean, notice he's wondering what the vision might mean. It's not talking about that you Extians can eat lobster and crabs and shrimp and anything else that has life in it. No, this is not what it's talking about, as you'll see. And while Kappa was doubting within himself about what the vision might mean, look, the men who had been sent from Cornelius, having asked for the house of Shimon, stood at the gate, and calling out, they inquired whether Shimon, also known as Kappa, was staying there. And as Kappa was thinking about the vision, the Ruach said to him, see, 3 men seek you. But rise up, go down, and go with them, not doubting at all, for I have sent them. So Kappa went down to the men who had been sent to him from Cornelius and said, look, I am the one you seek. Why have you come? And they said, Cornelius, the captain, a righteous man, and one who fears Yahuah Elohim, and well spoken of by the entire nation of the Yahudim, was instructed by a set apart messenger, an angel, to send for you to his house and to hear the words from you. So inviting them in, he housed them. And on the next day, Kappa went away with them, and some brethren from Joppa went with him. And the following day, they entered into Caesarea, however you want to pronounce it, and Cornelius was waiting for them, having called together his relatives and close friends. So not only Cornelius, but his relatives and close friends. He was like, you guys need to come and hear this. Something's about to happen. And it came to be that when Kappa entered, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and bowed before him. This was the respect and the honor that Cornelius had for the children of Yasharal. He loved the people of Yasharal. This was a YT man, as you people would call him, as we would call him, a Caucasian. And so it goes on and says here in verse 26, but Kappa raised him up, saying, stand up. I myself am also a man. And talking with him, he went in and found many who had come together. And he, that is Kappa, said to them, you know that a Yahudi man is not allowed to associate with or go into one of another race. But Yahuah Elohim has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Right here, at this very moment, as we're reading this, is when the apostle Kappa, Peter, realized what that whole vision was about.
of all those animals that was on that sheet that came down 3 times that Yahuah told him to rise up and kill it and eat. He realized it wasn't about the dietary laws, about you can eat anything that you want as Extians teach. No, it has to do with who was getting ready to be accepted by Yahuah to come into the flock of Yasharal. He says, you are not to call what I have created common or unclean. This is exactly what he was saying. So now the reason why I wanted to read this, because I wanted you to understand, how did the Apostle Kappa say to these people that you know that I am not supposed to enter into the house of other races? Like he said right here, verse 28, you know that a Yahudi man is not allowed to associate with or to go into another race. Now, there are those who teach and say Cornelius was one of the lost tribes of Israel. Really? Why would Kappa, Peter, say what he just said here, that he's not allowed, that is, it was a custom for the Yahudi not to go into the house of another race, of another ethnic group of people's houses? Why is that? If you believe that this man, Cornelius, was one of the lost 10 tribes of Israel, and you believe that he is another man of Israel who is melanated, how do you think that Kappa would say, this man is uncircumcised, or this man is circumcised? Did he see his penis? I hate to be that way, but I have to say this. Do you think that he just looked at Cornelius and just gauged him and said, no, this man is uncircumcised, or he's not circumcised, so I can't talk to this man? Exactly not. He was looking at the appearance of Cornelius and everybody who was in his house. They were of another race. They were of another ethnic group. They were not the lost tribes of Israel. It is so tiring to hear these people. And again, I'm half melanated myself. My dad is melanated. But it sickens me to hear so many times. I hear people on lives, I hear people on posts who should not be teaching, by the way, because they're going to be judged so harshly for the lies and the things that they say Yahuah said, and Yahuah didn't say that, and they're saying what Yahuah means when Yahuah didn't mean that, and they're over here telling people that white people can't be saved and white people can't be part of Yasharal, and we're seeing the opposite. We're reading the opposite. When are we going to get done with all this hatred and this prejudice and all of this racism? Those of us who are walking in the truth, we are not to have this kind of heart condition. And to say that someone is to be circumcised comes down to this same very fact that we are being racist without even thinking about it by what am I trying to say? I can't even think what I'm saying, but pretty much by what is being said there, for us to say that another person who is of another race can't be a part of us because they can't be circumcised and they can't because of their color of their skin. That's blasphemy. You're teaching hate and your eyes are not fully open. Now, I might lose some of you for what I'm saying right now, but it has nothing to do with that. I'd rather be obedient to Yahuah than to be obedient by any man or to be accepted by any man. I want to be accepted by Yahuah. No man has got me and what my heart and my heart condition is but Yahuah. So if you hate others because of the color of their skin, then you have an issue. It is in you that has the problem. It's not the scriptures. It's not the interpretation of the scriptures. It's you having the interpretation of the scriptures because of who you are and how you were born. We did not have a choice in the matter when we came out of our mother's womb, what color of skin we were going to be. This is why Yahuah says he is no respecter of persons. He doesn't look at people as man looks at man. He looks at the heart, the condition of the person. Hold on one second. I don't know why my camera is shaking. Do you guys see that? Do you guys see it shaking on your end? Hold on. Let me see if I can get that to be corrected. That's so weird. Oh, it wants to act up now because we talking all this truth. Hold on, you guys. Let me see what is going on here. That is so weird. I don't think I can zoom in. Camera with this on my phone is what is acting up. I can actually see the lens shaking. It's so weird. Now, as soon as I got into this conversation about those of skin color, 15 people then dropped out because the heart condition is wrong. Now, I'm not saying that that's probably why. Maybe they had to go do something. That might be what it is. I'm just assuming, but I also see when we get into certain conversations, certain things bring people in, certain things have people finding the door and they find themselves out. Now, if this thing continues to shake, I might not be able to zoom in on it as much as I would like to. I don't know why, but I'm going to continue reading, okay? Let me see where it stops. That is just so weird. Hold on one second, you guys. Let me see if I can do something with my phone here. Change. Wow, that is so weird. Well, I tell you, these technology things, boy, when they work well, but when they don't, boy, they just give you all kinds of issues. As soon as I zoom in that it does this. So I'm just going to have to leave it right there. I don't know what's going on, but let's continue. It's not going to stop the message. I might have to, Aki Quentin. I just might have to. Okay, so let's continue. So I'm going to have to read not through the phone because it's so small now that I can't see it myself. But again, what we were talking about is how Kappa recognizes everybody that's in Cornelius's house is of a different ethnic group. He recognizes this. He realizes this. But to say that Cornelius and those that were in there were the lost tribes of Israel, and that we're only sent to the lost tribe of Israel, that was for the Mashiach at that time when he was here. Because again, salvation is of the Yahudim first. It has to be presented to the nation of Israel first. The people who are DNA Yasharal must hear the salvation message first, the Basora, the great news first. And then it is given to the Gentiles. And that is what we're seeing. This is why even Shaul says that salvation is of the Yahudim first and then to the Gentiles. This is consistent all throughout Scripture. It's always to Yasharal first and then to the foreigner and then to the stranger. We just read earlier that circumcision was not only for Yasharal, but even those who were bought by the money of those who were Yasharal, and they had servants. If there was any male servants, they also had to be circumcised. That was within their gates. So to say that Gentiles have no part or no play or have no inheritance with the children of Yasharal, that is a lie from the enemy. That is a lie from the enemy, because the enemy is the one who's looking at pigmentation. It's the enemy who wants to separate because of the way one looks or the way one speaks or the way one carries himself. This is not of Yahuah. This is of the enemy. So if any of us, we all have to check ourselves, and we would be lying to ourselves if we never say that we don't have a little glimpse of this that rises up in our hearts when we have a prejudicial problem or when we have a racial problem. We do. Right now, I'm going to ask all of you, and you better be real with yourself because Yahuah knows your heart. Have you ever looked at somebody with a racial thought because they don't look like you? Even since you came into the truth. Give me a 7. Exactly. And that's just being real with ourselves. Because we've all become victimized, and we have become a victim of our circumstance in this exposure that we have all around us, because we are all being taught this nonsense. And so what is Yahuah doing? He's creating in us a new heart condition, a new heart posture. This is why when I look at our mishpachah, when we come together for the feast days, and you see all these different people of walk of life, those that are light-skinned, those who are melanated, those who are in between, those who are Asian descent, those who are of whatever descent, and we're coming together, loving on each other. This is the family of Yahuah. We're all his creation. Look, 30 more people done walked out. They don't like this kind of message. They don't like this kind of message because a lot of people love to hate. A lot of people love to hate. It makes them feel good inside to belittle somebody who don't look like them and see those people squirming. Oh my gosh, because they start talking about something that is true. And then when they start talking about something that is true, like racism, or they talk about slavery, or they talk about what's going on and how they're being treated by the man. And my white brothers and sisters who hear this message that's coming from a melanated person that could belittle them and saying, you did this to our ancestors, you did that to our ancestors, and you're going to be licking the bottom of our souls, and you're going to become our slaves, and what you did to us, we're going to do to you, and you're always going to be our servants. The poison that comes out of our mouth, that's not love. That goes contrary to everything the Mashiach taught. The Mashiach says we are to love one another. The Mashiach says you're to love your neighbor. The Mashiach says you're supposed to love your enemy. We're not showing love the way we talk to others. And circumcision is rooted in this. Circumcision is rooted in this. True circumcision is of the heart, not of the flesh. That's what we just read in Romans chapter 2. And I wanted to come back here to this passage in Acts chapter 10 because, again, Kappa, Peter, who is a melanated man, went to non-melanated people, Cornelius's house, and he recognized that when he was taken there, this is why Yahuah says, don't ask no questions. This is from me. Just follow them. Ask no questions. Why? Because Yahuah was about to open up Kappa's mind. He was about to blow his mind. He was about to blow his wig back. You're going to understand what this vision was that I gave you, Kappa. As soon as you walk into that house, it is going to hit you like a ton of bricks, and you're going to realize what you just said. Wow. He's also accepting Gentiles, those who are not of Yasharal stock. Why? Because they love Yahuah. How would Yahuah not accept those who love him? Think about that. If a non-melanated person wants to keep the Torah and he will not be accepted, who is any of us to say otherwise? To say, I don't care how much you can quote scripture and you over here talking about Yahuah and Yahusha, and you say you love Yahusha and you love the people of Yasharal, and then to say you're not going to be a part of us. Who are we? Who is anyone to say something like that? But you got people preaching this. You got people teaching this. And this is why you got people all out here. And again, me being a half and half, a half breed, I can kind of slyly slide in and listen to some of these people talking like this from all sides because of the way I've been made. When I'm around my melanated brothers that are not of the belief, they get to talking about the crackers, as they call them, and the Pecka Woods, as they call them, and the white tea man, as they call them. And then when I get over here to those that are Caucasian, I hear how they be talking about the N-word and how they talk about them, nappy heads and all this other stuff. To the Ata, Cody Jackie. Sure will. And then I see the same thing with the Asians, being that I'm part Asian. They don't know that I understand a little bit of the Korean language. And I hear how they be talking about the blacks. And here I am in their midst, and they don't even know that I'm half black. And I'm like, wow, look at this. Look at this. You see it all over the place. It's terrible. It's horrible. So let's continue. Now we're going to go into the book of Galatians as we wrap this part up. This letter to the Galatians is all about this subject that we're talking about. It has to do with circumcision. We're not going to read the whole letter. We are going to start, I believe, in chapter 2. Is it chapter 2? Yep, chapter 2. Galatians chapter 2. Let's read this. Oh, I forgot I can't do that. And here we go. Oh, man. Let me back it down a little bit. When does it stop shaking? That is so weird. I might have to get a new phone. Okay, so I'm going to read this. I apologize that you guys can't see it as big as I would like it to be without it shaking like it's got some Tourette syndrome or something. Okay, let's go. And I'm not picking at anybody who has Tourette syndrome. I'm just talking about my phone in case somebody gets a little too snowflakey. I apologize. Galatians chapter 2, verse 1. Then after 14 years, I again went up to Yahushalom with Barnabas, taking Titus, you may know him as Titus, along too. And I went up by revelation, and I laid before them the Besorah, the great news, which I proclaim among the Gentiles, the heathens, the nations, but separately to those who were esteemed, lest somehow I run and had run in vain. But not even Titus, who was with me, though a Greek. So here we see that Titus is not DNA Yasharal, he's a Greek, was compelled to be circumcised. Okay? But as for the false brothers, notice that it's talking about false brothers sneakily brought in, who sneaked in to spy out our freedom. Freedom of what? That you don't have to be circumcised. Let's continue. Physically speaking, which we have in the Messiah Yahusha in order to enslave us. To these we did not yield in subjection, not even for an hour, meaning that they didn't even put up with their madness, not even for a second. So that the truth of the great news remains with you. Verse 6, but from those who were esteemed to be what they were, it makes no difference to me. Alua Alahim shows no partiality. Here we go. For those who were esteemed contributed nothing to me, nothing to my walk, nothing to my belief system. These fake brothers. But from those who were esteemed to whatever. Oh, I just read that. Verse 7. But on the contrary, when they saw that the great news to the uncircumcised, that is to the Greeks or those that are non-Yashra'al, had been entrusted to me, that is to Shaul, even Kappa as to the circumcised, for he who worked in Kappa to make him an emissary to the circumcised or to those that are Israelites also worked in me for the Gentiles, the nations. So when Yaqub, Kappa, and Yohanan, that is James, Peter, and John, who seemed to be supports, came to know the favor that had been given to me, they gave me and Barnabas the right hand of fellowship, in order that we go to the nations, the Gentiles, and they to the circumcised, only that we might remember the poor, which I myself was eager to do. And when Kappa had come to Antioch, now notice this, he rebukes Kappa because Kappa was playing wishy-washy. All right, notice this. And when Kappa had come to Antioch, I withstood him to his face, because he was at fault. For before some came from Yaqub, that is James, he was eating with the Gentiles. But when they came, he began to withdraw and separate himself in fear of those of the circumcision, of those of the Israelites. And the rest of the Yahudim joined him in hypocrisy. So they were following Kappa. Kappa being a leader, they's like, well, if Kappa's doing it, well, we're going to do it. This is why we have to be careful of those of us who are leading others, not to lead people astray. Just like those who are doing this in Christianity. This is what's happening. All these people are grabbing onto the coattails of their pastor, preacher, and teacher, and they're leading them right into the ditch, into the lake of fire, because of erroneous doctrines and false teachings. But when I saw that they are not walking straight according to the truth, notice this, they're not walking according to the truth of the great news, I said to Kappa before them all, rebuking them publicly, rebuking Kappa publicly. If you, being a Yahudi, live as a Gentile and not as a Yahudim, why do you compel the Gentiles to live as a Yahudim? Are we playing both sides, some of us? I hope not. I hope we're walking according to the truth and not according to the ways that we think, oh, well, you know what? Nope. I'm a melanated man. It's only Yasharal. Only Yasharal is going to be saved. Everybody else is spittle. They're done. They're gone. Why would we think like that? It's only because we don't have the right understanding. Let me remind you all that there are those who are of the Gentiles who shall be grafted into the natural born olive tree, and they shall be accepted just as Yasharal. No different. No different. There is not a measure that is given to Yasharal and less to those who have been grafted in. They are going to be as one. They shall be accepted. Let me take you here to Ezekiel. Oh, no, not Ezekiel. Isaiah. Let me see here. I always be forgetting this passage. Yes, Isaiah chapter 56. Notice what it says here. And again, I wish I could blow this up for you guys, but I'm going to read it word for word, and you guys can look it up for yourselves. Isaiah chapter 58 or 56, starting at verse 3. And let not the son of the foreigner who has joined himself to Yahuah speak, saying, Yahuah has certainly separated me from his people. It's very clear who we're talking about here in this passage of Isaiah chapter 56. Again, it says, and let not the son of the foreigner, that means somebody who is not DNA Israel, who has joined himself to Yahuah, say, Yahuah has certainly separated me from his people. Nor let the eunuchs say, look, I am a dry tree. For thus said Yahuah, to the eunuchs who guard my Sabbath and have chosen what pleases me and are holding on to my agreement, to them I shall give in my house and within my walls a place and a name better than that of sons and daughters. I give them an everlasting name that is not cut off. Now here it is to the Gentiles, those who are non-Yashralaim. Also the sons of the foreigner who join themselves to Yahuah. Notice that the foreigner, those who are non-Israelites, join themselves to Yahuah to serve him and to love the name of Yahuah like many of you do, to be his servants, all who guard the Sabbath as many of you are doing this day, which is a Shabbat, and not profaning it as you guys are doing today, and are holding on to my agreement as you all Gentiles are doing today. Them I shall bring to my set apart mountain, that is to his kingdom, and let them rejoice in my house of Palal. Their ascending offerings and their slaughterings are accepted on my slaughter place. It's talking about our prayers, our praise and our worship. He shall accept it. For my house is called a house of Palal for all peoples. The Master Yahuah, who gathers the outcasts of Yasharal, declares, I gather still others to him besides those who are gathered to him. Speaking of, he's saying that I have those that are not part of this fold that I'm going to gather with Yasharal who are not part of Yasharal. We've read this many times, many of you with me, Romans chapter 10 and 11, about the wild olive tree and the natural olive tree. Yahuah is going to accept them. So no one can say otherwise. I don't care what they're wearing. I don't care how much they talk about the Messiah. I don't care if they are darker than darkest black. It's not going to help saving you. It's your heart condition that's going to save you. Again, it says here, so back in Galatians chapter 2, let me see if I remember here. Let's start reading again here from verse 15. We Yahudim by nature and not of the nations. Oh no, you know what? We didn't even read this part. Let me back up. So he was talking about Kappa and how he had to confront him to his face. But when I saw that they are not walking straight according to the truth of the great news, the Basora, I said to Kappa before them all, if you being Yahudi live as the nations and not as a Yahudim, why do you compel nations, the Gentiles, to live as a Yahudim? We Yahudim by nature and are not of the nations, sinners, knowing that a man is not declared right by the works of the law, but through belief in Yahusha the Messiah. Even we have believed in the Messiah Yahusha in order to be declared right by believing in the Messiah and not by works of the law, because by the works of the law no flesh shall be declared right. Again, Shaul's not saying not to keep the law. He's just saying, look, let's make it plain and clear. You are not justified by your works of the law. You are justified because of the Messiah. He's not saying not to keep the law. He's just letting us know. He's like, look, don't think you're justified by keeping the law. The law is not what's saving you. It is your belief in the Messiah. That is what's saving you. Verse 17, and if while seeking to be declared right by the Messiah, we ourselves also are found sinners, is the Mashiach then a servant of sin? Let it not be. Again, is the Messiah then a servant of those who transgress the law? Sin? Let it not be. Verse 18, for if I rebuild what I once overthrew, I establish myself as a transgressor. For through the Torah, I died to the Torah in order to live to Alua Alahim. Now, this is where Christianity takes this passage, this verse right here, verse 19, and they say, look, I'm dead to the law. I'm not doing the law. The law is done for me. It's done away with. This is where they get it from. Because they twist the words and the letters of Shaul, just like Kappa says that they would. In his letter, in Kappa's letter, 2 Peter. Verse 20, I have been impaled with the Mashiach, and I no longer live, but the Messiah lives in me. And that which I now live in the flesh, I live by belief in the Son of Alua Alahim, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not set aside the favor of Alua Alahim. Notice that he says, I do not set aside the grace, the unmerited favor of Alua Alahim, for if righteousness is through the law, then the Messiah died for nothing. He's saying that if we can attain righteousness through the law, then there was no need for the Messiah. But we know there was a need for the Messiah because, again, the Messiah's blood is what covers us of our sins, our transgressions of the law. That's how we're back in right standings with Abba Yahuah, because of the blood that was shed. Because where there is no shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sin, the breaking of the law. So this right here tells us what Shaul was saying. If you understand his mindset as a Pharisee who now has his eyes open to the truth, that not only do you continue to keep the law, but understand that the law is not what causes you to be justified before Abba Yahuah. You need the blood, because once you break the law, the blood has to cover your sin. And we all break the law. We have all broken the law, and we're going to break the law in the future. And when you do break that law in the future, guess what? The blood of the Son. That's what he was unalived for. He already knew what you were going to do. He already knew what I was going to do. He already knew how we were not going to keep the law according to his ways. And so because he knows that we are weak in our flesh, he had to do something with his flesh. His flesh was going to counterbalance everything that we did in our bodies by breaking his law. And now his blood makes us look clean, pure, white. This is what he did. So you want to be justified by taking off the foreskin of your flesh, men? Those of you who think that you have to do this to be saved, so what are you saying to those who didn't do it? Who believe in the Messiah right now, who are keeping the law, except they didn't get their foreskin clipped? Are you saying that these men are not going to be accepted? Where is that? Where is that? Do you not understand the spirit of the law? This is what the Mashiach was talking. Well, this is what he was saying when he says that if you even look at a woman with lust in your eyes, you've already committed the act, even though you didn't do it. Even though you didn't physically lust on that woman, or vice versa. Just that the thought ran across your mind, you've already broken the law. And because you did that thought, this is why the blood had to be shed on your behalf, because Yahuah is going to judge you by your thoughts. Whoo, come on now. You can't hide anything from him. It's not what you've done. It's what you're thinking. It's what you're thinking. Verse 20, I have been impaled again with the Mashiach, and I no longer live, but the Messiah, the Mashiach, lives in me. And that which I now live in the flesh, I live by belief in the Son of Yahuah Elohim, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not set aside the favor of Yahuah Elohim, for if righteousness is through the law, then the Mashiach died for nothing. I applaud that none of you are putting your trust in your flesh to do the law, because that is not what justifies you. We are to do the law because we love the Messiah. We are to do the law because we love the Messiah. We keep his commandments. And his commandments are not burdensome. If you think you need to go get your foreskin clipped, by all means, go ahead and set up your appointment, and you go over there to the hospital and you get your surgery done, and you can feel as if now you're okay and in right standings with the Messiah. But I'm going to tell you, you put your trust in the flesh and not in the Messiah by doing that. But you would say, but I'm doing it because I'm doing what he says. This is what he instructed. This is what he told us to do, to obey him. This was given to our forefathers. That was until the Mashiach came. Because if you're going to do that and you're going to say that you're going to circumcise your flesh, then you might as well go ahead and build an altar in front of your backyard somewhere, and you might as well start unaliving animals. Because that's exactly what you're doing. You're saying that what the Messiah did doesn't profit you anything. You're just going to believe in him, but you're going to do what the law says to the T. But once you broke the law, which we all have, you are now a transgressor of the law. And your circumcision means nothing. It's futile. Your circumcision cannot save you. So let's ask this question. We know what it says in the law, in the Torah, that a child who is born of a woman, that is a male, must be circumcised by the 8th day. He is to be circumcised on that 8th day. Let's say you're 20 years old now and you ain't been circumcised, but now you see this truth. What you going to do? Turn around and try to go and get circumcised? You already broken the law. It wasn't done to you by your parents on the 8th day. Now you may say, well, Abraham did it when he was 70-something years old or 90 years old. So I'm going to go do it now. Again, you think that doing that is going to put you in right standings with Yahuah. That doesn't make you right before Yahuah. What makes you right before Yahuah is you trust in him and you follow his commandments that he has given us. That is the Torah. And even though you find the law of circumcision in the Torah, just like we find the laws of sacrifice in the Torah, we know we don't do the laws of sacrifices anymore. And so it is also with circumcision. So the first council in Jerusalem with the apostles, they recognized this. They all understood this. And they even said what was right before the Ruach HaKodesh and to us, we give this to the Gentiles. Don't bow down to idols and those things that have been offered to the idols. Don't drink blood of animals. And keep yourself from fornication. That was the beginning of their walk. Because again, they weren't raised in Jewish homes. And I don't say Jewish as those other Jewish people. But you guys know what I'm saying and what I'm speaking. And so we do what Yahushua told us to do. And it's always been in the Torah that we were to circumcise the flesh of our heart, the foreskin of our heart. This is not only for men, but it's also for women. Whereas circumcision was only for men. Why? Because the man was the head of the house. It was counted with the man that everyone who was under him, under his umbrella, his covering, it covered the house, the wife, the children, everything. But we are no longer under that. We are now all under the Mashiach. If you understood what I just shared today, give me a 1 or a 7, please. If you understood what was shared today, give me a 1 or a 7. Hallelujah. Yahuah. Now, before we move on and close off this live, because I'm going to come back on, I want to break this into increments. So this would be, we're just a little over 2 hours right now. But before we do, I wanted to ask anyone, do you have any questions about circumcision? What we just talked about? Or if there's a passage that you want me to read that has to do with circumcision to get more clarity. Yes, Cody Nazareth. I'm definitely going to do that. It's done this before, but I am going to shut it all the way down and restart it. See if it'll help. Vanessa, you said, how about babies being born? So here's the thing. Let's say if my wife and I, Maisha and I had a baby today, and I had a male child, would I make sure that he is circumcised? Of course I would. Not only for being that it's a sign between Yahuah and his people, okay? Again, the child hasn't done any righteousness or evil. It's just a child, okay? But me as the parent, me as the dad, I'm going to have my child circumcised, my male child circumcised. Now, I know it has nothing to do with him, but it has everything to do with me being obedient, okay? Now, here's the other side of that. When he does get circumcised, as me being a Yahudi man, I also do this for my son for health reasons. It's known that it's that a person who has their foreskin taken off as a man, they usually have, their hygiene is better because the skin, when you urinate and all that stuff as a man, speaking as a man, and you have foreskin, germ can be trapped into the skin and you can get an infection. Okay. So, I mean, just for health reasons, it's great for the child to be circumcised. All right. But again, I do that because I'm the dad. I know the truth. But one who, let's say I didn't circumcise my child. Okay. That's not going to harm my child when he grows up and he comes into the truth as I'm sharing the truth with him. Because again, circumcision is of the heart, not of the flesh. It's not of the foreskin of a child's penis. Redfoot, you said, yes. Question, did circumcision count even if it wasn't done according to the rituals of the law? Did circumcision count even if it wasn't done according to the rituals of the law? So are you saying somebody who is outside of the agreement with Yasharal and Yahuah? Is that what you're saying, Redfoot? Yeah, what Nazareth said, I would say the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and close out now, and let's do the ironic barakah, and then we're going to come back on, and we're going to see where Abba Yahuwah sends us in the word for the rest of Shabbat. Yeah. Francesca, you said, do you believe in lost scrolls and things missing taken out of the word? Francesca, we do read the apocryphas. Not all apocryphas are of Yahuwah. There are some apocryphas that are made up apocryphas that I believe people who wanted to be of something when they weren't, and they put the names of other people and say, yo, this is the book of such and such, or this is the book of Thomas, and this is the book of Mary Magdalene, and all these other things. It's all nonsense. I've read some of those, and they are terrible. Okay. Latunia, Eighth Day Explain. You got to give me a little bit more than Eighth Day Explain. Akdawu, you want me to read Jeremiah 4:4? Is that what you're asking? So the 8th day, Latuna, there has been proof that on the 8th day, the white T cell count on males is the highest on that day. So the male child, when the foreskin is clipped, he's going to rejuvenate very fast. That it's going to heal very quickly. We noticed that after the 8th day, the T cell count starts to go down. And I think that might be the reason why Yahuwah wanted Abraham to have all the male child that were born on the 8th day to be clipping their foreskin. All right. So let's go to Numbers, chapter 6. And let's do the Aaronic Barakah, and then we're going to come back on. So I will be shutting down and then coming back on, okay? For those of you interested, I appreciate those of you who came through today for this short reading. I try to keep it no more than 3 hours on the first segment. And we are now at a little over 2 hours and 20 minutes. Okay, so let me just see. I just want to see, is it? Yep, still shaking. Numbers chapter 6, verse 22. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is how you barak the children of Yasharal. Say to them, Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor unto you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Yasharal, and I myself shall barak them. Hallelujah, hallelujah. All right, you guys. So I am going to play out what we normally play on this Yaum. And let me go ahead and cue that up. All right, here we go. All right, Mishpachah. Hope you join us here in a little bit.
May Yahuwah bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon
Nope, we're staying here on YouTube.
and give you shalom. Yahuwah. So shall you put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Yahuwah. May Yahuah bless you and keep you. May He make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May He lift up His countenance upon you and give you shalom. So shall you put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.
I be trying to sing, Ahava. I be trying to hit that high C note for our Abba Yahuah.
May Yahuah bless you and keep you. May He make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May He lift up His countenance upon you and give you shalom. Yahuah. So shall you put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.
All right, Mishpachah. So again, I will be coming right back. I'm going to shut her down and come back on, and we'll see where Abba Yahuah leads us for the rest of Shabbat. My name is Ak Jimmy, a.k.a. Brother Jimmy, and we are the ambassadors of Yahuah. Shalom, Mishpachah, for those of you who are not coming back. And for those of you who are coming back, see you on the other side. Shalom.